Hello everyone, the tweets that I'm about to show you are a little bit bewildering. So bewildering that in fact many people didn't believe they're real and went up to search for them. Unfortunately, if you do search for them, you're not going to find them because she has deleted them in shame. But you may find her apology, which I will cover at the end of the video. Speaking of bewilderment, the thing that shocked me the most is the fact that the United States actually has an ambassador to Afghanistan. And I looked it up, and yes, they do. Her name is Miss Karen Decker. And she is there in Afghanistan to represent the United States. Now, on February the 13th, she has tweeted some very viral tweets. Viral for the wrong reasons, I guess, because they got ratioed. Let's start with the first one. Super Bowl, what is that, LV2? Two elite quarterbacks who happen to be black made history in epic showdown. Congrats to Chiefs for thrilling victory. Afghans, what's the most exciting sports match you remember? Black History Month. Now, I understand her intentions, but I gotta say, imagine a gentleman by the name Alex. And Alex travels to Zimbabwe or Botswana or any other African nation that happens to be predominantly black. And Alex enters a sporting event there and does something amazing. Now, imagine if a politician goes, oh yeah, this one player who happens to be white. You know, it kind of robs you of that achievement. It's not like Alex did this. It becomes like, this happens to be white guy, you know? Is it wrong to assume that if the roles are reversed, like in this situation, the quarterbacks in question might not appreciate that instead of referring to their names, you're just referring to their skin color? I'm just pointing it out there. I don't know how it's like in America, but it's just weird from my point of view. So this isn't even the worst tweet. This is not the one that caused most of the uproar. This one is also interesting, however. Abe Lincoln born today in 1809. He did some stuff. I love this. You know, like he did some stuff. If I were to tell this to my history teacher, do you think I would get a passing grade? It's also important to understand, while America is a powerful nation, and its culture spreads far and wide, it is not correct to expect that other people from other countries will be aware of trivia from your history. Like, most people do not know who Abraham Lincoln is. I know it sounds shocking for an American, but let me put it this way. Can you point Afghanistan on a map? Some of you can, but like, if we do this to the general American population, do you think you can? And if the answer is you can't, why would you expect that they know the historical relevance and significance of who Abraham Lincoln was? If I go in Romania and I start asking people, I am willing to bet that if I go in a rural area, the overwhelming amount of people have no idea who he is. And they might not even know that America had the Civil War. Why? Because you don't know our history either. It's how it works, right? So, not to mention, to say, well, he did some stuff. At least say he freed the slaves. I understand that Twitter has a word limit and all that, but like, come on. So apparently, it's also NAACP Day. I don't even know what the fuck this is. NAACP Day. I've no idea. Why are you tweeting this? It's more like she's tweeting for her fellow Americans. Like, you need to check who your target audience is. Are you trying to farm virtue points for the people at home? Then you're doing probably a good job. I don't know. But if you're trying to reach the Afghanistani people, NAACP Day doesn't tell them anything. It doesn't tell me anything. Home of grassroots activism, inclusive communities, and making sure black voices are heard. What does that look like for Afghans struggling to be heard? Okay. Are Afghans familiar with hashtag Black Girl Magic and the movement it inspired? Do Afghan girls need a similar movement? What about Afghan women? Teach me. Ready to learn. You know what? I can do that. I can teach you, even though I'm not an Afghan. people from Afghanistan, first of all, they care more about religion. All right? Like, religion for them is a little bit more important than race. And when you talk about religion, it also matters, not just if you're a Christian versus if you're a Muslim, it also matters what type of denomination of Muslim you are. Right? Like, don't confuse your Sunnis with the Shias. You might offend someone if you call them the other denomination that they're not. But like, if you really want to go to the genetics, you really want to open the 23andMe kit, in Afghanistan, race is less important than ethnicity. Like, if you want, you can talk about the Pashtun, the Hazara, the Aimak, the Nuristani, the Brahui, right? Like that. That's what resonates with them more. What you are doing here is like you're bringing American talking points into a nation that like doesn't even have the foundation to begin the talking point. Like, what do you mean black girl magic? Like, of course they don't understand what that is. I don't know what that is. But then you also have Beyonce and Lizzo, right? So you go into one of the most conservative places on earth. It's very difficult to find a place more conservative than Afghanistan. And instead of like giving example of some scientists or, you know, some religious figures or whatever, you know, like something that can resonate with their culture, you're talking about ladies that show their ass on television to a country that gets CNN anchors to wear the burqa. I don't think it resonates very well. All right? And I think that Miss Karen Decker also arrived to the same conclusion when she decided to make her apology. But before we go to that, there is another one. As I reflected on his legacy this week, it occurs to me, who is Afghanistan Martin Luther King? What Afghan person driven by their faith and a desire for peace can lead the Afghan people to the mountaintop? I don't think you want to hear the answer to that question, lady. You do realize that the Afghanistani people have survived two occupations, the Russians and the Americans. I'm pretty sure they had leaders. I haven't looked into it. But if they probably give you a couple of names, you may not want to hear the answer to your question. But anyway, in the end, apparently she deleted all her tweets in shame. Apparently the one that didn't resonate is the one with the black girl magic, as I pointed out. I didn't even know that. But I do know, like, what type of culture do the people from Afghanistan have and what she was referring to. And I'm like, you know what? Like, if you are in Sweden, if you are in Germany, sure, those would have been good tweets. But you're in Afghanistan. You're not there to educate those people. You're there to create good relationships. Apparently, the US envoy tweeted that several of her posts earlier this week went awry despite her best intentions. See, this is why most politicians have a team to tweet for their social media. But I guess, like, when it comes to the diplomat for Afghanistan, America is probably like, oh, how much funds do we allocate? I'll just give her some lunch money and she'll figure it out. I mean, we'd rather allocate funds to other more important embassies. Her comments sparked online indignations from users who objected to seemingly tone-deaf comments about the plight of Afghan women, who have seen their rights severely curtailed since the ultra-conservative Taliban swept back in power. Since the hardline Islamist rulers have banned women working for most aid groups, going to school or university, parks and gyms and public baths, and ordered them to cover up in public. Yeah, and you're talking about Lizzo. Sometimes our best intentions go awry because we haven't listened enough or don't truly understand other lived experiences. No, Decker. Sometimes things go wrong because we stopped having a meritocracy, because we stopped hiring the best person for the job. Like, seriously, you should know these things before becoming a diplomat to Afghanistan. You should already know their culture. You should already know their history. It's not like, oh, now that I'm diplomat, I have much learning to do. No, you should have learned it before you took the job. And if you didn't, there are other people who probably know it. Surely there are some American citizens that happen to have grown in Afghanistan, and they would be far better suited for the position. Of course, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, right? Like, America probably doesn't really care that much about its embassy in Afghanistan, financially speaking, like as a priority, right? So I kind of get it, but like I'm seeing this all across the board. I see people that make an embarrassment of themselves because they do not understand what their job is about. Like, you don't learn this on the job. And it's not even that difficult. Like, studying a little bit of Afghanistan history, that takes like 3 months? You shouldn't remember all the dates, but at least you should remember the figurehead names, like a la Martin Luther King. Like, who is their Martin Luther King? You shouldn't ask that. You should know it. Are Afghanistan familiar with black girl magic? Teach me, I'm willing to learn. At the bottom of her tweet, she put the hashtag for Beyonce Lizzo. Decker asked if the country needed a movement, apparently obvious to its real need, which is food. Oh yeah, that's another thing, right? Like, you have like all these people from the first world countries who think that just because you have food in the United States, it exists everywhere else in the world. Who think that just because you have a police force in the US and you have relative safety, I mean, even in the most dangerous places in the US, still doesn't compare to other nations that have failed governments and they have militias running around and warlords and stuff like that. Just because you have that home, like you have the safety home, I mean, you got to have the safety in other places. And especially if you're a diplomat, you should understand the situation, the country you're representing. And this is not even like deep knowledge level. It's like surface knowledge. If I know it, you should know it. Let me know what you guys think, though. And as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.